Good morning, everyone. Ash here with Stupid Simple Crypto here on 1/24/2018. Today I'm going to be finishing up my three-part series on how I plan to pay off my mortgage with cryptocurrency. Today is going to be part 3, which is covering Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has had some incredible volatility over the last 30 days or so. Well, actually over the last 2 months, since basically the beginning of December. It has been way up or way down on any given day. As I'm recording this right now, it is just over $10,000 of Bitcoin. So this is actually an even more appropriate episode today than it would have been if I'd have recorded it when I originally planned, as I personally believe Bitcoin is at least 50% on sale right now. We saw it achieve a market high of 19,000, well, almost 20,000, depending on which exchange, back in December. And right now it's sitting right above 10, so it is at least half off, and where I think it's going to go in the next year I will show you here. So if you missed my other episodes, we're going to recap the rules of the game here real quick on how I plan to pay off my mortgage this year. Sorry, technical difficulty there. I had to figure out how the presentation worked for a second. So the rules to follow 1.1. I updated these somewhat since the other 2 episodes. So what the plan is to put 5,000 each into Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum by January 1st. I have done that. I actually accomplished that back in mid-December. So we're not going to touch that until June at the earliest. And at that point, the only reason to touch it would be if I was way off on my calculations and the amount was then enough to pay off my house. I would pull it all out and pay it off without any hesitation. We are playing for the long haul here, no timing of the market, so no, with this money, no trying to sell on the high and buy on the low. That's just not how this is going to work. Rule number 4, put in a new $1,000 if the market dips 30% or more from the high. I have done this at least once. We accomplished this last week when everything tumbled right around January 17th. We put an additional $1,000 into each of the 3 coins. If I had had more liquid at the time, I would have put more in, but I'm happy with what I was able to get. If Coinbase lists, number 5, if Coinbase lists a new coin that isn't Bitcoin Cash, put in $5,000. I had to modify this because the rule originally was put in $5,000 anytime they list a new coin. I wasn't under the illusion they were going to do Bitcoin Cash first, and I can't stand Bitcoin Cash. I don't think it's a scam like some of the crypto heads out there do, but I'm not going to be putting my money into it long term anytime soon. If I'm wrong and it blows up to 20,000 bucks a coin by the end of this year, I'll have had it in something else that'll blow up that much too, so whatever. $5,000 fed into Bittrex for day trading and swing. I have accomplished this and more. Once in place, it'll be divided into 4 chunks. At this point, I'm mostly doing it in 5 or 6 chunks, so we got that. Never to be all in one place except in cash or Bitcoin. That is true. And I'm going to use 2 of those for day trading and 2 for swing trading. There's a fine line between those 2 things. I'll explain at a future date, but for right now, I'm accomplishing that. So, in terms of New Year's resolutions and following my own plan, I am on track. So, step 3, Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself, what do I think it's going to do this year? Bitcoin, so why I did this one third is it had the highest buy-in of the 3 coins that we looked at. So I did Litecoin first because it's the cheapest, Ethereum second, well, because it's in the middle, and Ethereum's actually had a great growth curve over the last 60 days since I put my money in there, so I expect it to continue growing. It's got some great ICOs coming up. There's still significant upside potential with Bitcoin. I don't really see it being used as a currency, except unlike some people, I don't see that as a problem. Gold isn't really used as a currency, and yet everyone from governments to banks to private individuals wants to own it, and there's a lot more gold in the world than there is Bitcoin, so not really worried about that. Still think it's got great room to grow here, especially as supply gets tighter and as the big money comes in. And as I stated earlier, it's incredibly on sale at the moment. It's basically half off, so now is a great time to buy. What did Bitcoin do last year in 2017? So in 2017, on January 1st, it was $910. and immediately after that it actually dipped about 25%. So this January slump that we're in is entirely precedented. At the peak last year there was a growth of about 2,000%. That was the high point right around Christmas or earlier. I forget the exact date, but right around Christmas whenever Bitcoin hit about 20 grand. So that's a growth of roughly 20%. Before the December growth explosion, it would have been up about 1,162%, because on December 1st it was at about 10.5. So do the math, that was 1,162%. It had a nice, pretty steady all-year growth right up until the point it got nuts in December. So I don't want to discount the December insanity. I'm certainly not one to say, oh, that's never going to happen again. It's probably going to happen again. It's probably going to happen again 2 or 3 or 4 times in 2018. I don't know when, and I do think it's going to come down. So from a long-term hold perspective, I don't like to factor it in. But if I was getting really close to my goal and one of these things happened and I suddenly had enough money to pay off my house, well, guess what? It's all getting cashed out and I'm putting it straight onto the mortgage. So I'm not using it for my calculations per se, but I also don't want to say that it's never going to happen, because it's probably going to happen. That's just how investing works. So in terms of what I think for me that Bitcoin is going to do here in 2018, I think it's a very conservative place to say that we're going to see 2,000% growth. That's 20% of what it grew, or no, I'm sorry. I read my own chart wrong. 2,000% growth last year. So at 20% of that, so in 2017 it did 2,000%, and I think it's going to do 20% of that in 2018. I got to talking too fast and I got on a roll. So 20% of that is 400% growth, which would put Bitcoin at about $40,000 per coin whenever this happens. I think most of us, other than the doom and gloomers, think that's actually a pretty conservative estimate, but I'm good with conservative when it comes to investing. That means $5,000 that I put in would turn into $20,000. Is that as high as some of the other coins that I'm investing in? No. But even if you know for sure that it's going to be a lower investment, you want to diversify your risk and spread out to several good coins so that your risk is spread. That way, if I'm wrong about Ethereum being really good and it turns out to be terrible, but I'm wrong about Bitcoin being steady and it turns out to be great, I still have a balance. You don't ever want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's how people end up very depressed. So use whatever number you can safely invest and multiply it by 4. Do not ever borrow money to invest. That's just a horrible idea, and I think part of the reason January has been so volatile is because more than 20% of the Bitcoin investors out there had borrowed money to do it. This is still only about 35% of the growth. No, I typoed my own slide. That should be 35% of the growth Bitcoin experienced between January and November. Yeah, so this is what happens when you recycle slide templates. So overall, this is a very conservative number. I certainly feel like it could do more than this, but I'm not basing my calculations on it. If I get to the end of the year and I only get this 4x, well, that still puts you about 400 times better than the stock market. If you make 10% in the stock market in a year, you're all set. So that's what I expect Bitcoin to do. Bitcoin right now is very on sale. Today, when you are watching this, it is January 24th. For reasons of my own, I actually expect Bitcoin to start to grow very steadily following the 26th, because it's when the futures contracts expire. I may do a video on that in a couple of days, but if you are kicking around buying some Bitcoin, I would say now is a great time. It's on sale. Don't wait. Don't wait for it to go lower. Put some money in now. If it goes lower, put some more money in. It's still all going to work out in the end. Now's a good time. So that's the third part of my plan to pay off my house. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section of the YouTube video, or you can email me at stupidsimplecrypto@outlook.com. I would love to hear from anybody. So with that, thank you and have a great day.